welcome everyone again. We're going to begin today. Let's begin today by welcoming everyone to our webinar, Social Emotional Learning in the Digital Space, Strategies for the Pandemic Era. Abby Tinnen is our presenter today. Abby, did I say your last name correctly?
Yes.
Yes. I thought I should have asked her before this. Yes, Abby Tinnen, awesome. So she's a first grade teacher at Charles C. Clippard Elementary. It's a K-4 public school in Cape Girardeau, Missouri. I may have brutalized that one. She's passionate about early elementary years and providing her students with a focus on social emotional learning in her classroom. So I'm super excited to learn from her today. So Abby, I'm going to go ahead and turn that over to you.
Okay. So, like Melissa said, my name is Abby. I teach. Oh, I guess we go back. I teach first grade in Cape Girardeau. Um, it's it's kind of a fun. It's a fun little place to live. Have you guys heard of Cape Girardeau? Or have heard of? Okay. So I'll do a little more of an introduction in just a second, but um, the objective for our session today is just to learn how we as teachers can continue to meet our students' social emotional learning needs in the remote environment, which we're all have had some sort of interaction with in the past year or months or whatever. So a little bit about me. Like Melissa said, I teach first grade at Clippard Elementary in Cape. We have actually been face-to-face since August, and we haven't had any shutdowns, luckily. Um, we have had several AMI days, which are just alternate methods of instruction, and we're required to do a mix of online assignments, paper assignments, anything in between. So that's a little about me and where I'm at and where I'm from. If y'all would take a minute to introduce yourself to us in the chat, or you can unmute your microphone if you'd like. So where you teach and what grade you teach. So I'll give us a little bit of time to do that.
I'm Cindy Perdue. I am the kindergarten readiness facilitator in Bedford, Virginia, which is near Roanoke. So it's kind of central Virginia. I have taught first grade and also endorsed as reading specialist. So.
Neat. Thank you.
Jessica teaches 6th grade social studies, creative writing, and world mythology for 7th and 8th grade. Her school was started fully remote, but now they are back at school face to face, and she's half in person, half remote. Interesting.
That is interesting.
Yeah, and our K6 or pre-K 6 has been the option for fully in-person 5 days a week has been since August. We do have a remote academy, so that's an option for students as well.
Okay. Yeah, we had that option. Our students had that option too of they could choose remote or 5 days in person. One of my teammates opted for our team to do the totally remote for the first semester, and that was definitely challenged, but then she did get to come back to in person, and the majority of her virtual students came back to her at semester, so that was neat for her. So I guess, oh.
Bree Stafford, teaches 8th grade social studies in Hutto, Texas. Hutto. They've been in person since August with 5 classes, but one virtual class of 72. Bless you.
Oh my gosh.
That's a lot of kids.
That is a lot. I'm
Yes.
curious to hear how those needs are met or how it's possible. Like that's a lot of kids.
Yeah. That'll be interesting to learn more about.
Yeah, for sure. So I guess we can go ahead and hit the ground running. Or do we?
Is it Iona or Lona? I feel like it's Iona because it's not a capital L. Iona, I like that.
Iona.
Iona. Oh, that's even better. It just rolls
Most
off.
people
I
think
love that.
it's a L, but it's not.
Yeah. I know. I was sitting here. Okay. I don't... Well, you work in Houston, Texas, and a licensed specialist in school psychology. Nice. Interested in any and all virtual strategies. Yes, for meeting students' needs. And Brianna said she makes it work. She's got 2 other teachers in there for SPED, nice, and 504 accommodations. That helps a lot. I bet it does. Wow. So we got a great diverse group tonight, Abby.
Yes. And so another thing I wanted to add in, so even though my students are here 5 days a week, we have had different times, like if somebody had to quarantine, like I had to quarantine back in the fall. And so I was teaching through Zoom and my whole class was here and there were just subs in the room and it was a whole experience. And even when we've had kids that have had to be out, they have Zoomed into class now and they're just here and it's like, huh. So we've learned a lot and we've learned a lot of strategies about how we can really make sure that we reach them and how we can support them and support their families too, because that's a really big part of remote learning is those families at home. So we're going to be talking about just different social emotional skills that we can, oh, there we go, that we can use in our classrooms, that we can use through Zoom, that we can teach and then instruct our students how to take ownership of those and do them independently. So we're going to talk about the 5 components of social emotional learning. And what I think is really neat is that as a teacher, as someone who works in a school, we are each other's best resources. And as we're going through this, I'd love to hear maybe how you all have implemented similar strategies or things that you do that maybe I hadn't even thought of, because I think that these are great opportunities for us to really learn from each other. So we'll talk about the 5 components, and then we'll talk about the strategies that we can do live and the strategies that we can teach our students to do independently. So first I'm going to talk about what is social emotional learning. As we know, it's a framework to help both kids and adults learn skills like managing their emotions, understanding relationships, improving their own social skills, and then making responsible choices. The 5 components that are commonly known and that we teach from include self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, and relationship skills, and then just responsible decision making. So the first one is self-awareness, and that just means having a clear and accurate understanding of who our students are as people. This is teaching them how to understand their strengths, how to work through those challenges and really overcome obstacles, and recognizing their own emotions. And I'm not going to spend too awfully long on each component just because these are ones that we probably already know. But I just want to reiterate those and just touch on the components in case maybe we forgot. The next one is self-management, and this is taking responsibility for our own choices to work towards goals. I feel like this one I use a lot and hit on a lot in early elementary. It's that using self-control, building and maintaining positive habits, and just how to manage those big emotions that our young students have, and then how to persevere through things when things get difficult. Next, we have social awareness. And social awareness is fairly self-explanatory, but it's just having that understanding of how the world around them works. Those social expectations, social cues, how to take perspective in situations, developing empathy, and celebrating the differences that we have with each other. We talk about relationships and those positive connections that we have with others. And we really try to teach healthy relationships, communicating effectively, teamwork, becoming friends, building friendships, maintaining those friendships, and how to use those conflict resolution skills to solve problems. And we have decision making. So this is teaching our students to how to use those strategic methods to make those positive choices, setting them up for success, how to develop responsibility, problem-solving skills again, how to own their own choices, and how to really set the foundation of building those positive habits, healthy habits for the future. So why is social emotional learning important? I feel like in my own classroom, I try to let my students know from the beginning that they're human, we're all human, and we all have pretty big emotions, pretty big feelings, pretty big thoughts. And these are always changing. And it's like they might be one way one day and a different way the next day. But the reason why it's important and why we teach these is because these are life skills. And they're skills that follow us into adulthood. And I feel like I tell parents this so much, that especially in early ed and as they're still in the school setting, we're really trying to set them up to be successful when they leave the walls of our building, and really just how to be good, successful people. But using these strategies and skills in the classroom has shown to help with academic performance. It really helps with behavior problems, and we all know that it promotes positive social behaviors as well. So let's take a minute just to talk. What could be the value of incorporating these practices in person or virtually or both? If you want to share through unmuting, feel free, or if you'd like to answer in the chat, that works too. Or let me know if I'm talking too fast or if you can't hear me well.
So Cindy says students who feel part of a community will be more willing to take risks. Excellent.
I definitely agree with that. I feel like that's a big thing that right now more than ever is so important, no matter how old or what they're doing. I have the little box where I can see everybody in the corner of my screen, and some slides I have to move it because like it covers up some things.
Cindy made another great comment. A strong social emotional learning program will promote academic growth. Jessica says, when students are comfortable in your room, they feel safe, and in turn, they are more successful. Iona says, reaching students virtually has been a challenge. It is important to make sure that they still feel like they belong and that they are an active member in their education.
Definitely so. So an example in my classroom this year, which has been really, really, really cool to watch it play out and just to see how it's almost textbook the way it's worked out. I have a student that just came from a very traumatic household. Pre-COVID, she missed 70 days of kindergarten. So you can imagine from there, like where we kind of started and what we're working with. And it was just that thing of like, her basic needs had not been met. And now she's in a situation where she is able to, her needs are met, and she has just thrived. And she came, obviously having missed so much kindergarten, that we started the beginning of first grade. We started probably late pre-K, early kindergarten level, but we provided a lot of social emotional learning strategies. We provided just a lot of support, and over time that has really propelled her, and now she is thriving academically. Is she where she's technically supposed to be? No, but we are supporting her to the point that she is able to be successful, and we're not seeing the behavioral problems that we previously saw, which has been really amazing just to see how this has worked. And I know that when I was virtual and I was behind the computer screen, it was very, very difficult for her and also for myself, because it just was that feeling of like, oh my gosh, how can I support her? Like, what can I do? And in that is when I kind of started diving into a lot of these strategies that I'm going to talk about, just because I feel like they are so important. And even if we realized how important they were before we were virtual and before we had no choice but being remote, it's like they're so important now. And it's just so imperative that we know them and that we are able to support our students this way. So first, I'm going to talk about some strategies that you can do with your students if you're live on Zoom. So I know sometimes people are live all day or live different parts, and then they're also recording videos. And I think everybody's remote learning might look a little bit different. But these are ones that can be done live or also whenever you're in person. I like to start each day with a morning meeting. This can be done in person, it can be done virtually, and it's a great way to start the day. It gives each child a chance to share what's on their mind and really just to see where they're at for the day. I know this is the time of the day where I really figure out if this student is struggling, if they are really tired, or this is where I see that this student's going to have a little bit of a challenge keeping their hands to themselves. we always go over our schedule for the day, and then we use these slides that include like question of the day, character question. Those are probably my favorite times of our day because it really fosters that social emotional learning. A sample is like, what would you do if you were playing tag and you accidentally knocked over your friend? So then we go around and a couple people get to share some, like, what would they do? And it provides a really good opportunity just to have those conversations and really learn from each other and learn what each kiddo has on their mind. We like to sing affirmations because I really believe that when students are speaking things over themselves, that they're believing what they're saying. They're believing what they're saying about themselves. And I'm sure most of you have probably heard this song. It tends to probably be more geared toward early elementary, but I do think that it would be beneficial for upper elementary, middle school, high school even. Will I Am sings What I Am, and as they are, as we're singing, they're saying, what I am is brave, what I am is magical, what I am is special. And it's just so incredible to hear 6 and 7-year-olds, for me, what all these things that they believe about themselves.
Abby, Jessica said that her husband does something similar to the start of the day called Good News at the beginning of his 7th grade class. Any students who wants to share can. It's not always good news, but it builds that class bonding.
I love that. And that's a great way in 7th grade too. My mind tends to gear more toward the younger students, but I love hearing about how upper grades can foster this too. It's so awesome. There was something going around, which it was a couple years ago, but this kind of feeds right into that, where it's the what I wish my teacher knew. I'm sure you guys might remember that or have heard of that, and which that's something I feel like is very geared toward those upper grades. My students sometimes, just with their artwork, I can kind of see like what's going on in their house that maybe they don't want to share with everybody, or they wish that I knew. So, there we go. So one thing, this resource was shared with me by my teammate, just feelings role playing. So what you could do, there's the link to this video. It takes you to a song about feelings, and it kind of talks about different feelings that we have, that we feel, common feelings. And then there's also a resource where you can print out the cards that you see here, and some additional ones. And so you would start the lesson by playing the video and letting them just recognize all the different emotions that there are, or if they can't place a name to them. But you could print these cards out, or you could have them project them on the screen, and as you would hold the card up, the students would just act out the emotion. And I feel like that is something that it helps us place our emotions. It helps us just to know what they are and that they're really okay, because we all have them. And then there's also a link where you can access those cards. So then, in relation to the morning meeting, it's also beneficial to close each meeting or close each day, depending on your scenario, with a meeting as well. We do this at the end of the day while we're waiting for dismissal. When I was virtual and when we have our AMI days, we just did this as the very last thing we did. We keep it positive, and we talk about what we learned during the day. We talk about maybe things that happened, things people said, and we really just make connections with our world, each other, and maybe books, maybe stories. But I feel like it's super important. Sorry. So let's talk. We've already kind of done that a little bit, and I love it. Have you guys implemented any of these activities, or have you implemented any others that you'd like to share out? So same as before, you can answer in the chat or just unmute.
Jessica has her hand raised. Go ahead, Jessica.
I didn't need to. Sorry, I pressed the wrong button.
No problem. No problem.
Okay.
Sure, we have all done that. I know in my class, I've made a real point of addressing these things as they are happening throughout the day, even if it stops what I'm doing. So I think I've just been more active in making sure that we talk about these things whenever they come up.
And I feel like sometimes, and I know I've had conversations with people at my school and just other professionals in the schools that I've interacted with, that a lot of times I feel like social emotional learning is either left to those beginning of the year read alouds or to our guidance counselors. And I feel like I've really tried this year, especially, to make a conscious effort of implementing those throughout and at least a couple times a week and in conversations.
Jessica says with her remote kids that she does some check-ins, usually once every couple of weeks, just on a Google form where they can share anything they want to tell her and let her know if there are things about class that they're struggling with but are too worried to email or speak out about in class. That is great, an easy method for students to respond to. Great idea.
That is. So I'm going to go ahead and move on, but I would love to see your ideas if you're still working on them or thinking about them. I would still love to hear those as well. So here are some strategies that your students can do independently or with someone at home. Of course, you would have to teach them how to do these first, but they are all skills that they can do without a teacher leading them in it. So kind of like we just shared about a daily check-in, another one of my teammates uses this, even with her in-person students. And it's just Google form. And for our little guys, they can click the emoji. And it's super simple for them to use. And I didn't have the opportunity to do this, but I've heard other people talk about how they've used this to set up one-to-one Zoom meetings. And I thought that was really awesome. Sorry, my throat is starting to get tickled. So another thing that can be posted in Google Classroom or on whatever platform that your school uses is this daily gratitude jar. And there's several different choices, but it's also editable to where you could enter, or your students could enter the things that they're grateful for. And they would just they would click and drag each of the boxes to the jar, and I feel like it's a great opportunity for them just to see all of the things that they are grateful for, all of the things that they have in their lives, and it helps with self-esteem, I think, too. So calm down techniques. Like I was talking about my little student earlier, some of the things that I really had to focus on with her were these calm down techniques with me being on the other side of the computer. And it was very difficult, as I'm sure that you all know and can relate to. So guided meditation is something that you could guide your students in. Sometimes, depending on the day, even my in-person kiddos will spend 3 to 5 minutes after lunch just having that time where we're just thinking about, we're just in our thoughts. Some breathing exercises that you can teach include the balloon. This one, they just pretend that they have a balloon, and they're just slowly blowing into their balloon, and their hands expand as it gets bigger. And then when it gets as big as they want it to be, then they pop. And then we have the bunny breaths, just the quick, like, breaths, snake breaths, and then the blowing out candles. So my mom actually taught first grade for 31 years and retired the year before I began my first year teaching. And a strategy that she shared with me that she used over and over again was the blowing out the candle. And my kids think it's hilarious because I'll say, oh, get your candle. Let's think of your favorite smell. And at this age, a lot of their favorite smells are like birthday cake or something like that. It's like, okay, think of birthday cake, and you're going to sniff and you're going to take the scent in. And then when you're ready and you feel like you can't sniff it anymore, then you just let it out. And they love that one. The pretzel, they just clench every part of their body very slowly, like one body part at a time. And then once every part is clenched, then they slowly let it out one by one again. Another strategy is just taking a walk. That's a very simple one that parents probably would love to do with their students. So I put in some websites and some apps that you could use in the classroom, but that you could also share out with your families, which they would definitely have to access these and show their student how to use them. But they're definitely things that you could pull up and screen share to all of your students. And I love how all of these different resources, they all focus on those 5 components that we talked about earlier. I felt like when I found some of these, I just couldn't believe I never knew that they had existed. And some of you are probably like, oh yeah, I knew that those were there. But I love that there's resources out there that support our students and that are user-friendly enough for parents to support their children. I'm not going to spend too much time talking about these, but if you all have a comment about them, I'd love to hear that and as well.
Jessica says she loves Go Noodles. She gets some eye rolls, but they are very fun to do.
They are.
I agree.
And it's crazy how different groups of kids like different videos on Go Noodle. Mm-hmm. I had a group of kids last year that Go Noodle was baby stuff. But this year my kids love it. And even when we've had AMI days, I know I've heard from parents that they love Go Noodle too because it gives them a little bit of a break.
We had a calm down playlist. So I know music makes me so happy when we play music while the kids are coming into school. It just sort of pumps everybody up and it's very helpful. But having a calm down and different music for different moods, and allowing my students to choose that has been helpful. Or really, that was my child, my home child, choose his music. And then he knows he'll go listen to it. And it's very, very beneficial.
It is. And I love how versatile these strategies are because they're so easily transferable between remote learning and also in person. Because I feel like these are all things that can be maybe not easily done remotely, but they are doable. And there is a way that we can support our students, and I love that.
As a library media specialist, before we go to read alouds, don't forget your resource teachers. I'll have students that bring me a purple folder, so know that none of the other kids know why they're coming to me. They come for a few minutes for whatever reason, and I am so super happy to support that for them. So don't forget your resource teachers.
Definitely. Well, and I feel like I know at our school, our guidance counselor is very, very hands-on, and like these are the things she lives for. Like she loves it. And our we do, which just when we're in person and in previous years when we didn't have as many restrictions, we utilized several resource teachers, but also instructional coaches and anyone really to, like with our tier 3 students, with those check-in, check-outs. And it was all about the relationship and also helping them to develop these skills. So I found several read alouds, and I highlighted the ones that I use in my classroom, which obviously there's several more that I utilize, but I really love how there's read alouds that I have not had in my classroom, and I'm like, I know which ones that I need. Has anybody used some of the other ones that are on here? Well, another thing that I'm passionate about is reading and books and teaching students how to read and how to find joy in books and read alouds. So this is an area that I really feel is beneficial. Not only like these stories, some of them are geared toward our younger kiddos, but a lot of them, it would be perfect opportunities to share these with our older kiddos. And I feel like maybe they'll get some eye rolls. But I think that they would probably really relate in some of these areas. Just last week, I revisited The Good Egg, and my kids I feel like it led to so many learning conversations and just really figuring out who each kid was, and they learned a lot about their classmates. So to wrap up, something I wanted to leave us with is, which of these strategies, or were there any that we talked about, that you could see yourself implementing into your virtual classroom or even in-person classroom tomorrow? Did you learn anything new? I'd love for you to share if you did or if you didn't. Yeah, I love to hear what other people are doing in their classrooms.
Iona is interested in the read aloud. She hasn't looked into those yet. I know And Jessica loves the gratitude jar. That is awesome too. I am totally going to use that tomorrow.
I love that. I love all of it. I the gratitude jar is something I feel like. Oops, there we go. With my students, I would have to change that up a little bit and differentiate that. But I love that too, especially because I know that you said that you were with older students. So I believe that is all that I have for us today. I really enjoyed getting to share this information. I feel like when I was compiling it, I was thinking about all of these resources and strategies, and I feel like I reminded myself of things that I could and should be doing. I hope that this was beneficial for you all, but I just wanted to thank you for hopping on and wanting to support your students.
Thank you so much, Abby. This has been very, very beneficial to us and for our students, and I agree with you. I know that our students, even young, old, they feel some stress, and this is all new and different for them, and they need us more than ever, I think. So I'm so glad that you presented this tonight. So I am going to put a link in the chat box to an evaluation and also an email address. If you need a professional development certificate for tonight, I'm going to go ahead and add that email address in first. So that is help@socialstudies.com if you need that, and then I'll add in the link to the evaluation. My sun started going down, so it's gotten dark in here. Usually I cut and paste it, but my window disappeared and I cannot find it. All the joys of technology in our age and time. Let me double check that that works and I did it correctly. Yes. Awesome. So it works. So please fill out that evaluation. We're always trying to improve and get better at presenting to you and making sure that we're meeting your needs. This will conclude our webinar tonight. Thank you again, everyone, for joining us this evening. If there are no other questions or comments, make sure you fill out that evaluation. Abby and I will stay on for a little bit longer just to allow you, if you have some more to say tonight, or if you have any questions or comments, feel free to pose those at this time also.